the closer I get to my dream day and my dream life is the closer I get to the definition of success. 25 years ago, when I was in high school, not a lot of women were in science, technology, engineering, and math. If you're authentic and you come every day as your authentic self and you genuinely care what matters to them, that's where the magic happens. I took the leap of faith and I've never looked back. It was one of the best decisions I made. And now we're 900 and plus employees, and I really have my dream job.
All right, welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast, and thanks so much for tuning in once again. Today, our special guest is Teresa Yeager, and we're incredibly excited to have her on the show today.
Teresa and I know each other for just over 2 years. We studied together at Harvard Business School, and I feel like I know Teresa, but I say this to many of my OPMers, but there's so much I need to know about Teresa. I kind of got to know Teresa from other people, so it's just about time now. I want to unpack her story and understand a bit more. And welcome, Teresa, for the Quest for Success podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be asked to be on the Quest for Success.
So, Teresa, this whole conversation is about success. And so we really need to start with a fundamental question. And that is, what does success mean to you?
I mean, that's a deep question. And I would call success a lifetime journey. It's not something you accomplish. There is no end goal to success. There's no definitive you've hit it or you haven't. I would say if I internalize the question for me and I asked myself, what does success mean? I think the question is, if money was no object and I could do whatever I wanted that day, what am I doing that day? What do I want to be doing that day? Mm-hmm. And then if I compared what I get to do in a day to what I actually do today and look at the delta, that the closer I get to my dream day and my dream life is the closer I get to the definition of success. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If I've explained that accurately, like the vision of if money were no object, what is that life?
Yep.
And then how close am I to that? And so the last part I would say is, how do I define success for me? If I think about the days that fill my bucket, I feel a 10 out of 10. That's when I'm like, that was a successful day. And sometimes it's a successful moment. It might not be all day, but there's enough of those moments that it's filling my cup, that gives me energy, mm-hmm. that I would say is when I feel like I'm close to success.
So it's more about kind of freedom for you, in a sense.
It's interesting you use that word, because that is absolutely part of, my mission and my vision in my life. And that is to have the freedom to choose.
Yeah.
Any of that. Choose what I do with my time, choose what I do with my money, choose what I do for others, that I have the ability, capacity, and freedom to make those choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely makes sense. I think it's very similar to my definition. I would say, having that freedom to do what you love and whenever I want, and, however I like the way, to do it. So, Teresa, people that don't really know you, please explain, what do you do now? Like, maybe let's talk about now.
Right now, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I run a software business, so we specialize in the government space, and in particular, we service smaller municipalities across North America. And so we are a group of smaller companies that came together and felt like we were stronger together. So there's a number of software products that we have that we came together to service specifically that market of a small municipality in North America. And so I get the privilege of leading the team, and we have a very strong group of people that honestly make my days amazing. I get to come to work and work with the best people, and so we're doing something pretty special over here. I think our clients love us, and we love what we do, and so it's a win-win all around. So that's what we do.
Yeah. So you're actually based in Canada, right?
That's
Which
right.
part of Canada?
Yeah, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And we do have clients in the US as well, and we do have a head office in the US. But I am based out of the Canadian head office in Edmonton, Alberta, Western Canada.
Nice.
And I suppose, did you always live in Canada?
So I'm born and raised in Canada, but I used to be in central Canada in Ontario, and went to university there. And then this job actually brought me out here. It was a 16-person company, and it's actually an interesting story. I was climbing the corporate ladder at a large corporation, and I've loved every job I've ever had, just to be
Mhm.
clear. So I loved what I was doing, but I thought it was time for the next challenge. I felt like kind of my work was done there. I like a challenge. I like to build a team and create that great environment. Looked at a number of options, including several other big corporations. And in the midst of that, this smaller 16-person company came on my radar, and it was a big move to move across the country. And Canada is geographically quite large, so it is a significant physical move. And I was really drawn to the opportunity because I felt like I could make a difference. I was interviewed by some of the existing staff in the process, and I just really liked them, and I felt like I could do great work there, and I felt like I could really make a difference there. And I remember telling my friends and family that I think I'm leaning towards that little company, that little software company in like rural Canada, in Western Canada. And one friend's like, that's crazy. Like, that's crazy. And, my family was even like, I don't think you realize how big this move is. Are you sure you've thought it through? And there was some resistance. And I would say, that was 6 years ago. And that was when I really started getting better at hearing my intuition and following my gut. And I think that takes practice to hear that quiet voice.
Mhm.
And that was one of the defining moments in my life, looking back, where it wasn't maybe the traditional choice, and people might have thought it was kind of crazy, but in my head and in my heart, it really felt like the right decision. And so I took the leap of faith, and I've never looked back. It was one of the best decisions I made. And now we're 900 and plus employees, and I really have my dream job.
Mm. So, did you actually start working in this company, or did you? How
Yes,
did?
I
Yeah,
did not found the company.
yeah.
I was not a founder of the organization. Yeah.
So you came to kind of work in that company,
Mhm.
and then kind of build yourself in the business part of the
That's right.
growth. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, throughout these conversations, what we've found is people are very much shaped by their early days. So I kind of
Mm.
want to go back to your early life and get a bit of understanding about, where you grew up, your family dynamic, and how you think you were shaped by those kind of formative years.
Yeah. So grew up in a small town outside of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Um, lived my whole life in that town. My nucleus of my family is a very, my parents are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary in
Wow.
2025. I have two brothers. I'm the middle child, and we are, middle class family in Canada. Grew up in Canada. Beautiful place to grow up. English speaking. I don't have any other languages, although I wish I
Uh,
did. That is a privilege. When people have, I admire. Um, but my parents are both high school math teachers. And I think that's really important when I think about how I grew up for a couple of reasons. The stability of the home, of that nucleus family of the five of us, was a really beautiful thing. And, the neighborhood and middle class Canada is very stable and secure, and grew up in that environment. My parents being high school math teachers, every board game that you think is family time is actually like a math lesson. And I didn't really know it at the time. And so, like, to this day, we'll talk about these math games that we were tricked into doing, that we thought it was like family night on Friday, but it was really just math games. And we still play them as a family to this day. We get together for all the holidays, and it's still very much a thing, these board games and these math games that are not just a family board night, it's math games. So things like compound interest, is like a very standard table conversation when I was 12. So I think one of the biggest things from my childhood is learning the value of a dollar. That was an important thing in our family. Work ethic. We always had jobs and part-time jobs. I was on a budget. I had my own bank account when I was very, very young, figuring out how to save money and bank reports to my mom and dad and the whole thing. So I would say that, a couple of things. Family values. I'm still very close to my family. We still very much, that's a big part of who I am today. I have said to my staff multiple times, the only time you won't be able to reach me is if there's something I have to be there for my family for. That's basically the only time that is a boundary for me. It's when I think about time off, it's prioritizing quality time with my family. And that is absolutely from my childhood. I would say that is a big lesson from how I grew up. And then just work ethic. Like, I'm not afraid to work hard. I really love it.
mhm.
Um, I'm blessed at the opportunities my childhood gave me. I was doing things like on the robotics team. One of our classmates, Dylan, is on the board of the robotics team I was captain of in high school,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
So my life came full circle in the last couple of years. But, just having access, I'm going to age myself now. 25 years ago, when I was in high school, not a lot of women were in science, technology, engineering, and math, right? My parents, being math teachers, absolutely had me part of that community. So that tech side of me, the math skills side of me, the math diligence on that, those all absolutely came from the opportunities that came from the childhood and the home I grew up in.
There's one more point on there that I want to kind of dig into. You said you grew up with two brothers. Do you think that made you like a stronger kind of, you had to prove your worth? And do you think that like kind of helped you later on as well as you kind of moved into leadership? You had that kind of grit.
So I would say that there's no question that had an absolute impact on me. Like, they are competitive. It's an athletic home, hockey and stuff, right? And so everything was a competition for sure in my home. There's no question that had an impact. They are actually quite sensitive, my two brothers. So I like to think I gave that to them. And then maybe on the flip side, Dylan, they gave to me a more like masculine, power, harder shell in return. And so I'm going to connect a parallel on that, to your question, Dylan, on that. I think being a businesswoman, as we have come a long way to have women in leadership roles, and we've come a long way to have women in STEM, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of what I've had to do to get where I am is channel my masculine energy and that masculine characteristics of a businessman and a business person. And I think that I got that partially from in a positive way, from my childhood, on how that looks, how that feels, how do I translate that into my own career. So I think that's a connection I don't know that I've made before.
No,
Thank you
I
for
think
that.
that no, I think that's a
You,
really
you had
interesting.
a better ability to negotiate with men from the
Mm,
childhood, I guess.
mm-hmm. That's true. That's true, because that's all I had to do. Negotiate you know, who got the big piece of chicken at dinner, or negotiate, you know, who got to sit in the front seat and pick the music on our car rides and our family trips. That was definitely one of them. I wonder what my brothers would say if you asked them who won the negotiations. I think they would say I did.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
that's
they would
interesting.
say. I think they would. I think they would. Even today, I think they would admit that I usually win
Yeah.
those.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to jump on quickly and say a massive thank you for all of the support so far. But I also wanted to ask a favor of you guys. We want this podcast to reach as many people as possible so that we can share all of the incredible learnings that we've had so far. But in order for us to do that, we need to grow our following to beat the algorithms. But the good news is, however, there is one simple thing that you can do to help us reach that goal. So I ask you if you could please follow or subscribe to us on whatever channel you're listening to this on. It'll help us grow the channel, which means we can get on bigger and better guests for you guys. And with that, back to the episode.
So, Teresa, would you consider like yourself like a smarter child, like at school? Like, I mean, you're coming from a mathematical background at home, as you mentioned. I guess you're pretty good with your education. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, growing up like we said, education was like a non-negotiable, to be honest with you, in our
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
It was like we would all be sitting together at the dinner table doing our homework, and if I said I didn't have homework, there was only one high school in my towns, and my parents both worked at it, so they would be like, no, I talked to Mr. Richards, and I know you have chemistry homework tonight, actually. So so there was no getting away from it, right? Um, but yes, I was a pretty diligent student. I think I felt like doing well in school was a critical thing to make my parents proud. I would say that has come with me into my adulthood as well. A lot of my motivation is I really want to make my parents proud. Um, I also believe I grew up with every opportunity to be successful in society's definition of success being, money, corporate, etc. I think I was, being born in Canada. I had a lot of opportunities
Mm-hmm.
and education. So went to university, got 2 degrees in university. Like that was important in my household,
Yeah.
and I feel privileged to have had that opportunity. And so that is absolutely growing up in a home with teachers and
Mm-hmm.
parents,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the importance of doing well in school was important for me. Yeah.
But you had any plan those days as a child? Like, I want to be like something.
I think robotics
Okay.
changed my life. When I tried a lot of different hobbies, and not a lot of them lasted long. Some people go, I played basketball my whole childhood, or, picked a sport or whatever. I didn't. I did a lot of things for a short period of time, but robotics is one that I still do today. I still judge the world. I'm still very much part of that organization for over 20 years. I think it changed my life in that it showed me, I was the captain of the team, but I was not that technical. And so it showed me that I love technology, but I don't have to be the subject matter expert on, I don't have to be an engineer to love it. Although I toyed with, should I go to school for engineering? Should I go to school for math? And I went to university for business. And so I think that that was a pivotal moment when I was, 16 and 17 and leading this robotics team in high school, that I realized the pieces that I loved was having this team of 30. The team had 30, and fundraising and building a brand, and we created a logo, and we had to travel with the robot, and I had to coordinate these trips, and I just loved bringing people together.
Mm-hmm.
And I also loved looking back. I don't know if I knew it at the time, but looking back, I think one thing I loved about it is figuring out how to put people where they're best. We had a technical team, we had a marketing team, and I think I really loved that nuance of putting everybody where they're best and then bringing them together. And I think that's really translated into what I love about my job today.
Oh, awesome. So I guess you realize early days that leading and getting everyone together is probably that's your strength. And then you work towards to that, I guess.
And I'm not sure I had those perfect words for it at the
Yeah.
time. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
just knew when I was doing stuff I loved, I was good at it.
Yeah.
And I was like loving the robotics, so I did more of it because I was enjoying it. And if you're enjoying it, you're good at it. And that it like spirals into what became my career today.
Yeah. Yeah. So after finishing uni, you went to corporate straight.
Yep.
Yeah. And start working.
Yeah, so I was in marketing, and then I was in sales, and then I was, in 2008, 2009, was all about tech and moving physical car auctions actually online, and that's when I started to get into tech, on the tech side of sales and marketing, and then I um, became a leader in my 20s, and led a lot of people my age and sometimes older. So it was an interesting dynamic to learn how to navigate early in my career. From tech and software, I moved to SaaS. And that's when my math world and my tech interest and my leadership skills all came together, because what's very cool about SaaS is all the financial metrics, right? Valuations and recurring revenue and churn and net retention. And I just like really loved the compound of an reoccurring revenue business model. So I got into that even before it became like a thing. And yeah, I've been in it over 10 years, and yeah, I love a SaaS business model. If you,
Yeah.
I know, weird sentence to say, but I really do. I love the math of it all. I love the logic of it. Yeah.
Much easier to scale, right? SaaS
Right.
business. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned something there about being a young leader, and
Mm.
I wanna get some input from you as well. Like I'm also in my 20s. What is
Mm.
some advice you'd give about being kind of the younger person but leading older people as well, and like how do you balance that
Mm.
dynamic?
Mm. Yeah. So that excellent question. I think I like to believe data drives decisions. And if you're making data driven decisions, you'll get respect from anybody, older or otherwise. The second piece to that, though, is the reality that everybody wants to know what's in it for them. So if you can tap into the individual's motivations and really care about what that is, so not just say it, but actually your actions match, that you truly genuinely care about every employee that reports to you and what matters to them, and then help them get there for whatever that looks like, nobody cares how old you are. Nobody will care at that point, because if you're authentic and you come every day as your authentic self and you genuinely care what matters to them, that's where the magic happens in terms of collaboration, leadership, and ultimately the reason what all of those people do is an environment of trust.
Mm-hmm.
And when your peers your manager, your direct reports, that whole ecosystem trusts, when there's trust developed, I mean, the sky's the limit. And so I would just, my only 2 cents on that is I think it all comes from genuinely caring about the people on your team
Yeah.
Mm.
and not paint everybody with the same brush, right? Like everybody has different intrinsic motivations. And if you can align with that, while still be meeting the business need, right? Which is
Yeah.
also a manager, the dichotomy of the two, right? Especially sometimes when they don't align, they can be mutually exclusive, but both have be progressing. That balance is an interesting one.
Yeah. So, Teresa, so working for a large corporation, that you mentioned that when you see this opportunity to getting, you had any intention? Like, I mean, it's a big shift for you. One, it's a small company,
Mm,
and second, you actually invest in that company as
mm-hmm,
well, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a big decision. I mean, I had the same challenge. My parents couldn't understand why I was doing it because I came from a similar kind of background. Obviously, you had some challenges from your family as well, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they none of them are kind of a business owners, and they
Right.
never had that exposure or experience. Their perfect world is you're becoming climbing the ladder, you're becoming a top CEO of a larger business.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did you I mean, I have two questions. How did you convince yourself,
Mm.
right, this is the right decision to make? And then how did you also convince like your close family and friends, this is what I want to do?
Yeah. Okay. So how the convincing myself part was actually easy. I convinced myself because it goes back to, my intuition and my gut. And I knew when I went to bed at night, you put your head on the pillow and you say like, you start really internalizing what do you want and what's best for you. It was a no-brainer to take this opportunity at this small company versus continuing to climb the corporate ladder. I think part of that is having confidence in yourself to that you can do it. I think part of it is there's an element of risk that you have to be comfortable with that not everybody is comfortable with. And so for me it was the right time at the right place and it felt right. However you describe that, it just felt right.
Hmm.
In terms of friends and family, some people took years to get to a place to that it was accepting that I was living on the other side of the country. Some people took years. One friend actually has since apologized for the way she handled it, and we're in a really good place. No hard feelings, but some people really took it harder than others. My parents, I do a lot of things that they say, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" I also do real estate on the side, and I take some risks on the real estate side. And I have grown that portfolio pretty substantially over the last few years. And there are days when my family says, are you sure? Are you sure? Um, but I think they know me well enough now to know that I will hear them out, but still do what I believe is
Yeah,
best.
yeah.
So I think they knew they weren't going to talk me out of it. I will say though, I probably downplayed it, and I remember distinctly saying, "I'll be back in 2 years." So there was definitely an element that I was trying to lessen the blow by saying, "Oh, don't worry, I'm moving. I'm just going to do it for a couple of years, make a difference, and then I'll be back." So that's part of it. Go ahead, sorry.
You said something there about part of the reason you could do it was because you had the self confidence. Is
Mm.
self confidence something that is innate, or do you think it can be learned?
No, it's definitely learned. And I don't have it all the time. Like it's on a scale. It's not a you have it or you don't.
Hmm.
It, did I evaluate the risks enough and the pieces that I can't the risks I can't mitigate, do I trust in myself and have the confidence that I can overcome if the worst thing happens? So a situation like that is worse. I would go in my head and process what's the worst case. The worst case, I don't like the role and I don't last very long and I lose some money and time in the process, but I trust that I can rebuild. I trust that I'll have a bed to lay in at night and I won't lose the roof over my head. I trust that I have enough savings that I can build something else. Like, it's that risk mitigation piece. So I would say I'm pretty data driven. So even my risks are calculated. Um, Funny story, my family is musical. I am not. Okay, but I play no instruments and you do not want me to sing. But my family does. They play the guitar, they play the piano, and they sing. And for birthdays, they take famous songs and change the lyrics to be about the person. And then we all have to sing these songs, and I like sing quietly because I cannot hold a tune. But the rest of my family is like full on singing these songs, and they've changed the lyrics, and they're like piano and guitar, and they're singing these songs. And the song that they made about me, there's a line in it that says, always trust Excel. Because everything I do, I'm full on Excel spreadsheeting, worst case scenarios, here's the calculations, and here's what it looks like, and best case it could look like this, and here's my modeled out for 10 years, compound interest, debt repayment, like the whole thing. So even my family knows I'm okay with risk, but it's calculated. And I build confidence, or I gain confidence by doing that level of analysis and critique on this major decision I make. And so always trust Excel is is the line in the song. And I will not sing it. You don't want me to.
Yes, there is a. I'm really interested to know about your business, if that's okay, if sharing. So, w- again, two questions. One, what did you say when you joining the opportunity, right?
Mm.
And then second thing, please tell us about your business and what do you do.
Yeah, sure. So the first piece is, okay, so when I was going through the interview process to join this small company, the history is it was around for about 20 years, but it really was a professional services business. And over the years, the customers were asking for a software tool to support them in the services. So the company spun up a software portion of the company, but it was primarily heavily services. And the software side of the business really didn't make a ton of money. It just kind of subsidized and complemented the services they were selling. So the person I joined to work when it was 16-person kind of carved out the software. And so the service business is ran for 20 years by the same gentleman, and it still exists to this day, but they've carved out the software and wanted to kind of create its own business in the software side. And so I kind of joined less than a year after that happened. And the goal was, how do we take this software that we know has something there, but really grow it and give it its own legs and create its own business out of the software? And so it was about that SaaS business model, and it already had some, legacy clients that used it for years and really helped develop it in the first place. So they really got a lot of feedback to make sure it met the needs. So I was very confident in it, and I think there was two pieces missing that kind of was I felt like I was the perfect for, which is why I was excited to join. And so those two reasons are, number one, I think this staff really needed a people leader, someone
Mm-hmm.
who, because the gentleman that ran it was excellent at finance and accounting and operationalize a business, really structure driven, legal, finance, all those pieces were buttoned up beautifully. He was very strong at that. But where my strength comes in is bringing a team together, getting team bought into the vision and the goals, getting them aligned to where we're going. So if you picture like a bus, we're all driving a bus. Is everybody in the right seat?
Mm-hmm.
And is everybody clear on the seat they're in? And are we all excited and driving in the same direction? And I really believe in that team alignment and the power of people when everybody is aligned. And so that's one of the things that I feel like felt like a fit for me. I felt like that was needed in the org. And then the second piece is just this concept of SaaS and reoccurring revenue,
Mm-hmm.
and like that business model, the importance of retention, the importance of customer feedback, the importance of service reviews with our existing customers, like that whole customer retention piece, customer success. I did that at the corporation I was at. I really believe in the value of that. And so I was excited to bring that to the table as well. So those are the two reasons I kind of took the leap of faith. I said, I'm not going for money. I'm going because I think it aligns with like what fills my cup, what brings me joy. What's like, what am I going to get excited every day to get up and go to do? And what's beautiful about that is it was as great, if not better than I expected. It was a perfect alignment to my values and where I wanted to be and what I love to do. And to the point where like you don't watch a clock when you're doing that kind of work, right? You don't even realize you're still there at 8 p.m. because you're just loving it. It doesn't feel like work. And that was just a beautiful thing. And so yeah, I'm still here 6 years later. What happened over 6 years? Ownership structures changed a few times in the 6 years. Ton of acquisitions. So we're part of, over 30 acquisitions and teams that came together in both Canada and the US. And so I learned a lot around change management, people management. That has been fascinating. I just really think it's important to be curious and be a continuous learner. And so why I'm still here 6 years later and will be in the future, there's always so much to learn. And I love that. Like that gets me super excited. So that's been the 6 year journey. I mean, that's a quick summary jam of 6 years,
Yeah,
but like a ton of change management, a ton of structural changes to scale a business, a lot of the stuff I love, like people management. Yeah, that was the
yeah.
that was the
I,
6 years.
I wanna I wanna come back to that people management, your
Mm,
culture, and all that
mm.
in a minute. But I just trying to understand your business, your value proposition, and who's your primary customer. Uh,
Yeah. So we're very clear that we only service small rural municipalities, government municipalities in North America. So our products were built for that small municipality. So it meets the needs of that small municipality. But to be honest with you, if you asked our customers why have they been with us for years and what do they love, they're going to say it's that we don't just sell them software. We sell them software with services. We hold their hand through the journey. Like a small municipality is wearing 100 hats and they do so much in a day. And so what we do is we're there to support them. They might not be technical, or they might be, or they might not be comfortable with implementing a new technology. And so we're there, here's the tech, but we're going to hold your hand every step of the way. And so we have a very seasoned professional services team and support team and implementation team. And to be honest, our development and engineering team, a lot of what they do on the product roadmap is customer feedback and continuing to invest in the product on what the existing customers tell us they need as municipalities evolve and change. And so, for example, COVID happens, we have a meeting management tool where you council meetings or like once a month. They needed to stream them. They need to be able to do them remotely. They needed to have all of these new features when COVID hit, and we were there to help them manage through that. And it wasn't just about selling you a software, but we call it tech with a human touch. Here's the technology, and we're going to provide that human touch, that human expertise to help you get the most out of the tools.
okay, that's
So I would
yeah.
say that's our value prop. I would say that there's so much value in speaking to our existing customers, and every time I meet with them and speak with them or go on the road and go visit them, that's the consistent thread. Anybody can build software. What makes us different is that we genuinely understand the pain points of a rural municipality in North America, and we understand that they need that human component to support them with their software.
Mm, that's awesome. Um, So Teresa, tell me about your organization. You said very early you're very passionate about the culture, people,
Hmm.
and tell me what do you do, and share some insight, please.
Yeah, of course. So I am passionate about people, and I said that 6 years ago during the interview process. I remember saying exactly that line. And because I think the magic of an organization is the people. And the value of the organization, as much as we have great technology and amazing customers, we are nothing without our staff and the amazing staff we have. And so it that manifests in a lot of different ways. I define culture as, our daily habits and rituals. That's not something I define. That's something the team defines. I'm super proud of the culture that we have. Do I set the tone for it? Absolutely. But it's not my habits and rituals that set the culture. It is the team and the organization. And as we get bigger, it becomes even harder to retain that core culture. And so I'm proud to say I do believe in our employee engagement survey, and the one-on-ones I do with the staff tell me we are maintaining that beautiful culture we've developed over the years. And so there are some structures we have, like we have, you asked me, Jam, what our value prop is. I know you meant to our customer, and I answered it that way, but we have an employee value proposition as well. And that's like, why work here? You know, and there's four components to that. Meaningful projects. We make a difference to our citizens and ratepayers in North America with our software. That's beautiful. So yeah, people and culture is a component, collaboration, development. We, whenever possible, promote from within first. Whenever there's an opportunity to, we believe in that. And it doesn't necessarily mean promotion up. It could be lateral moves to try different roles or different departments. So we really encourage those conversations, mentorship programs, those kinds of things. My leadership team is 6 folks, and 100% of them are promotions from within. I am a promotion from within. So the role I have today is not the one I first had when I joined 6 years ago. So I was promoted into this role as well. And so but you'll see it throughout the organization, not just with me and my leadership team, but within the organization. There's promotions from within is a big part of who we are. People can grow their career. But to the other point we talked about much earlier on around, what matters to every employee, that intrinsic motivation is a huge piece. For example, if you're coming here just for a raise from where you
Hmm.
are somewhere else, that means you're going to leave for more money. If you
Yeah.
come here for more money, you're just going to leave for more money. If that's your biggest motivator, this might not be the place for you. But if you want to learn, if you want to grow, if you want to feel supported by your peers, if you want to feel like you're contributing to a bigger project, or the municipalities across North America, we do those projects every single day. We make a difference every day. Those are the reasons to work here. And so dialing in the interview process, I interview 100. There's 4 steps to an interview for
Yeah.
all the roles here. The fourth is with me. I interview 100% of the applicants, before they get hired. And so I do a lot of interviews. And the
Wow.
purpose of that meeting is value alignment and culture fit. I want to make sure they are excited about what we have to offer, because we aren't for everybody. If you want to punch a clock and work 8:30 to 5 and build a pension, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but we don't offer that, and that's not the motivation to work here, right? And so those important pieces, I ask questions like, define work-life balance. I want to know what that means to them. What it means to me is, when your family needs you, no problem. You go if it's 3. You go watch your kids recital. I'm 100% behind that. On the flip side, if it's 5:05 and a client really needs you, I'm going to ask you to stay till 5:30. I won't even have to ask you. You just know that's the right thing to do for the customer. And those are the pieces, those nuanced pieces, all those daily habits and rituals is what builds us to the team we are today, which builds the culture that we have. And to the point where I don't have to ask them anybody to come in early if a customer needs or stay a bit late if the customer needs. Everybody just knows it because everybody cares and has value alignment. That's the beautiful thing.
That's awesome. Very hands-on approach, interviewing everyone. That's a very very big job.
It's a big job. We're
Yeah.
hiring, yeah, we have about 44, I think, in the next year we're going to be hiring. So, yeah,
But I
but
get
it
what you're saying.
matters, right? It
Yeah,
matters.
absolutely.
You put your time into what you believe matters.
Yeah.
And if I say to the organization, people are our most important asset, and then I don't take the time to show that, then I'm just all talk and no action. And so I am proud to do that. And it's an important piece. It also means on your first day, I know you already.
Yeah.
I know every employee, and there's a lot of employees, right? And I know and to that point, every year, this is right next to me, the stack, every year I handwrite a Christmas,
Wow.
a holiday card to every employee. And I know it, something specific to say. It's not a generic happy holidays, thanks for a great year. It's I really appreciated in July when that client, X, Y, and Z, and you went above and beyond and they gave you that CSAT score. Keep up the great work. We appreciate you. And I mean it. I mean every one of those.
I like that. Really good. Something to take away,
Yeah, this is
Teresa,
a
for me.
master class in people management.
Ugh,
Yeah.
I wish.
Teresa, one question I have. You mentioned that you had almost 30 acquisitions over the years.
Mm-hmm.
When you acquire a business, of course, there are some other people joining your organization, and they're coming from a different cultures and things like that. How do
Mm-hmm.
you manage that kind of transition?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I learned a lot along the way of what not to do. I did it not well sometimes. Every single time we did it, I learned a little bit more. But so I could give you a list of things not to do. Let me just be clear. Um, but that was humbling. That was humbling. Great people that we couldn't retain because for exactly that reason, the change management and the psychology of the human behavior. They came from a small company. Maybe they had leadership responsibility. They wore a lot of different hats. And then you come up to our org and we want to streamline the structure. And that's hard for people. And if people don't know where their new home is or they don't feel comfortable about that new space, even if you think it's great, it doesn't work out. And I would also say I I felt like, how do I say this? I felt like I said the same thing 10 times and sometimes they didn't hear it and I had to say it in the 11th.
Mhm.
To me, it was very clear and I knew exactly where staff fit. And I was so excited about the talent that we brought on board with the acquisitions. But they might not have felt it.
Mhm.
So I didn't communicate it enough. I think one of the biggest pieces is that level. Everybody wants to feel appreciated. That's just like a natural human behavior in life and at work. And if people feel like the work they do is appreciated and that they're valued, there's loyalty that comes with that. And so I needed to do a better job over the time. I learned more and more about making sure I communicated early and often
Mhm.
and individually their value and that we appreciated them and that we really had a home for them with our organization. Um, but folks did often self-select to leave. And I appreciate that. And some have come back, some have left and come back, which it was beautiful. We have, that's a beautiful thing. It's tough, right? I
Mhm.
think, as a leadership team, we said it was like the ABC is like, but the B is buy-in, right? And then C was consistent communication. And so getting that staff buy-in from the acquired company and then consistently communicate was really, really important. And we built that kind of structure over time. Every time we did it, we learned a little bit more, you know. But yeah, we called it the ABCs, and it was just a reminder to us, like, you know, we have to appreciate what they're going through. We have to get the employee buy-in, like get their buy-in, and then consistently communicate. And it was simple, but it's amazing how much I thought I was doing that I wasn't. And, you know, you do lose good people when you don't do just that basic, like showing them appreciation, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very good points. You know, especially that you mentioning really understanding the employees, just like the customers. You know, we spend a lot of time trying to understand customers, but sometimes, you know, we ignore our own team members, right? Which is very, very vital to grow the business. Yeah.
So I want to kind of go backwards a little bit.
Hmm.
Did you ever, or I suppose now as well, would you ever start your own thing?
Oh my gosh, of course. Like I would say that my real estate is its own self-sustaining company at this point. It's large enough that it would, you know, it could be, would be, is really like a family office, right? Of investments and real estate and things like that. Um, my biggest issue is the idea. Like I'm an executor, I'm an operator, right? I'm a people leader. I'm like a change management. I love that stuff. I am not an inventor. So my biggest roadblock is the idea, you know? So if you have one,
That's so funny you say that because I'm
Uh,
exactly the opposite. I'm
really, oh
all
my gosh.
ideas, but
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong people, Teresa.
Yeah.
Ideas, we got so many ideas. What we need someone to execute those ideas.
Yes, that's where I come in. And so it goes to like you just got to know where you're best,
yeah,
right? And if you just got to capitalize on where you're best. And so I'm very clear on um and if you do what you're good at, you love it. And so there's just like it just keeps the world just keeps giving back to you, and these opportunities come forward when you put out into the universe what you love and what you want to do. And like Jam, let's be honest, the day might be come that I'm going to go to our class group chat and I'm going to say, guys, gals, I need the next idea. Who wants to partner with me? Because I will execute, right? And so it wouldn't surprise me if the day came.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Write them down.
I always tell Dylan, ideas are cheap unless you actually execute them, right? So our biggest challenge, we got thousands of ideas that we talk every morning. Hey, why don't we do this and do that, right? And then it just became an idea because we are not really doing it because we got so many things that we are currently focusing on.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's a combination, right? You need ideas as well as people to execute and run with it. Yeah.
Because what's the saying? Lots of inspiration, but you need the perspiration, right?
yeah.
Like lots of ideas, but you still got to do the work, right? The
Absolutely.
perspiration, like
Yeah.
do the work. And so, yeah, I mean, or the EOS model, like visionary and an integrator, right?
Hmm,
Like
hmm.
that yin and yang is the magic if you can find it, right? And I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
know where my road is.
yeah. So, Teresa, I know we talk a lot about business and stuff like that. We just want to spend a little bit more time understanding about you. Apart from work,
Mm,
what else you do? What do you
mm,
do for your hobby? You mentioned that renovating houses. That's
yeah.
one of the
That
hobbies
is
that
my
you.
hobby. That is my hobby. So for a while, back to my parents, for a while they were like, "When do you wind down?" Like you go all day at your corporate gig and then evenings and weekends you're doing renovations. And then I realized actually the real estate side is my hobby. Like it's
Okay.
like I love to watch the market. I love to find the deal. I love to buy the deal, negotiate the deal, hustle the deal. I love to close the deal. I love to bring life back into a home. So I buy fixers and I get a lot of personal fulfillment out of bringing a home back to life, right? Doing the renos, I do it myself, I do it with my partner, and we are like spray painting walls and like we're doing the work, right? And
Wow.
it's like fun for us. And I also love doing it on a budget and like figuring out how like I get scrappy and creative and call it frugal and cheap, but I love that. And then I love making it a beautiful home, and I don't sell them, I rent them. And
Okay.
I love doing the showings, and a potential tenant comes in and goes, "Oh my God, I love this house. I love what you've done. I'm going to make it a home." And then I love like when they move in and send pictures and they've moved in, and or like a Christmas tree, and I just like I'm so proud to create beautiful homes that people love to live in. And so that is absolutely a hobby for me. Like I get so much personal fulfillment out of that.
That's awesome.
Where
Yeah.
where did that start?
Yeah, so that started back to my childhood of like the value of it's the double, like you can make an investment, and this is my argument to my family. You can make an investment and that's great. It'll grow 7 to 10% and depending on where you invest it, great. It's pretty linear, right? But what's beautiful about a house is you put a mortgage on it and the value goes up because
Hmm.
in Canada it's gone up my whole life. It's leveled a little, but it's
Yep.
pretty much pretty consistently the value of the home that goes up while a tenant is paying your mortgage down. So what you owe on it, assuming you have a mortgage on it, goes down, and then you get this spread.
Yep.
It's not, your access. Like, and so this spread is this beautiful, fun thing to watch grow. And so, like, Excel, I have Excel with like a tab of everything, and I love seeing this. Like, I still use the same Excel so I've been doing real estate for 19 years. Next year will be 20 years.
Wow.
So when I was like 23, I bought my first house. Like I emptied my savings account to buy my first house, fixed it up, and I just haven't stopped.
I mean, it's a great hobby to have, right? Like
It's
it's
fun,
yeah,
creative. I think it gets my creative juices going. Yeah, it's definitely a hobby. For me, outside of that, like I love to hike. I love to play tennis. I love to be on the water. I love to read. I read probably 50 books a year.
nice.
I get, and I would say I go through themes. Like maybe a couple years ago, it was all sales books, and last year might have been all leadership books. I'm doing a lot of self development and personal. What is the meaning of life kind of books right now. A lot about, how getting in touch with my intuition, doing more on my intuition guiding me, a little bit more on my feminine energy because I probably have paid very little attention to it. Being in business, thinking about what gives me energy, thinking about what fills my cup, thinking about um, finding more joy, gratitude. I'm doing a lot of that over the last probably year and a half, and I'm getting a lot out of that. So
Yeah.
just constantly challenging myself to think of new ideas, grow, open my eyes to new ideas. So.
Yeah, yeah. Keep you busy. And do you have any recommendation in terms of a book for us? Because we
Oh,
love books as well.
you don't even like I read a book a week, so it depends on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
topic. I will give you lots if you want business or personal or what do you want.
I mean, motivation, I guess, you know.
Yeah, that's self-development. Kind of what the phase you're in now.
Do you know what a really from like a care about humans but business book is The Go Giver is a great story.
All right.
The Go
Okay,
Giver
good.
is a great one. From like a scaling a business, I loved Lean Startup.
Yep, I read that.
From a creative, like what did the best of the best do, and kind of like historic businesses that have done amazing, The Outsider.
Uh-huh.
um um
Yeah,
The Universe Has Your Back from Gabriel Bernstein might be a little out there for you, but that's the kind of stuff I've been reading these days. So
yeah.
the universe, it has your back by Gabriel Bernstein. Love her. So I mean, I could keep going, but it depends what
No,
you're
no,
looking
no.
for.
That's good to share. I mean, the whole idea of this session, I guess, to share as much as information we can for others to, you know,
I
learn.
just finished Work Rules, which is the previous head of HR for Google, and kind of how they built their culture. Like,
Amazing.
and it's interesting because I guess I'm not surprised, but the HR organization used a ton of data, and so they use data to drive even employee engagement, employee recruitment, and so it was kind of nice because I love the people side and HR stuff, but I love data driven decisions, so it really spoke to me. So anyway, I just finished that
Yep,
one.
yep.
So
Thank
and
you,
then we
thank
went
you,
to
Teresa.
school, Jim. I
Yeah,
mean, the reading was pretty significant at school, wasn't it?
absolutely. I
Yeah.
can understand why you're still behind with uh, finalizing all the summarizing everything because you are a very busy person. Yeah,
But I love it. So
yeah,
is it
yeah,
busy or is it a good busy? I think it's
yeah.
a good busy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for you, Teresa?
I would say that I think I'm still very much on a journey of self-discovery on what fills my cup in all of life. So I actually think I'm very clear from a business side
Hmm.
what I love and what brings me joy. I have trouble turning it off. So it's like I'm like a computer where you have 30 tabs open, you know? Like that's my head at all times. Like I have 30 tabs open at all times. Is that a good thing all the time?
Hmm.
Whereas I struggle maybe to be present and just enjoy the moment. I'm often the next thing and the next thing. I'm trying to meditate and I have to meditate with like a post-it note pad of paper next to me because I'm trying to think about nothing and all I do is think about something. So I have to write it down to like get it out of my mind so that I can really try to meditate. Um, so I would say I'm on a journey and that's where I'm at on my journey today. I think a lot about giving back and what does that look like and what's the best way for me to do that. Because I get a lot of joy from that. That fills my cup. Giving back, and I want to do more of that. I have to think about what that looks like and
Hmm.
how to best do that. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Like I often think about am I balancing well? And I think balance isn't really a thing. I don't think it has to be equal, but I do want to make sure I'm giving enough attention to the other parts of my life, my family, my partner, my friends and community, and then internally self. Like, am I taking care of myself?
Hmm.
Or, when you're doing what you're passionate about, again, I'm passionate about people, like, I got to fill my cup too,
Yeah.
right? And so that's the journey I'm on.
And looking back on this journey, do you
Mm,
feel successful? Because your definition was, the having that kind of freedom and then also doing things that fill your cup. So
yeah,
do you feel successful?
yeah. I think this is what I say when people ask about what I do. Like sometimes I think I want to just pinch myself. How did I get so lucky
Hmm.
to get to do this every day? Like I am surrounded by incredible people. We get to do incredible work. And then I have a beautiful support system of friends, family, community. And like this journey of life is incredible. Like I feel so blessed, which I think is why it's so important. I'm at the place where I'm like, how do I give back? How did I get so lucky and how can I do more for others so others feel kind of that level of whatever that looks like to bring joy. So yeah, I'm gonna answer yes.
Good. I'm glad you feel that way because I would agree with you on that front. I mean, we could continue talking for hours, but we don't want to take up too much more of your time. So throughout this conversation, I've been kind of jotting down a few things, a
Hmm.
few traits which I think have been core to your successful life, and I'd like to share them with you. So the
Okay.
first one is authenticity.
Hmm.
I mean, we've met once before, very briefly at Harvard, but throughout this conversation, it's just felt so easy flowing. And I feel like we've gotten to know you so well. And I think that's in part because you're so authentic. You're not trying to hide behind a mask. You are Teresa. You have no shame about that. And you project your authentic self. And I think that's really important, especially in your role working with people people can tell when you're hiding behind a mask, and that's
Mm.
potentially why you've done so well in the people space, is because people appreciate you showing off your authentic self. And then the next one I've got is you're very calculated or very logical. And I think throughout all of the tough decisions that you've had to make, you've always gone back to that analytical approach. And that's helped you internalize the risk and give you that self-confidence that we spoke about to take those kind of larger and bigger risks. And at the end of the day, taking those risks have led you to where you are today. The third one is people driven. I think if we count up the number of times the word people got spoken about in that conversation, it'd be quite high. Everything that you do is all about people, and you're humble enough to appreciate that great organizations that you're a part of have been built by others around you, and your core skill is helping those people to rise to the challenge and do their best work so that they can go on and build these organizations. And I think that kind of relates back to that authenticity part. And then the last one is continuous development, whether it's going to Harvard, reading 50 books a year, whatever you're working on, you're always trying to be the best version and always trying to consistently learn throughout the process so that you can be that best version of yourself. So yeah, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been excellent.
Yeah.
And to you too, thank you for having me. I mean, I think you hear me speak about my family. I love my family and feel like they're a huge part of who I am today. But it's beautiful to watch you two interact and what you two are doing together. So thank you for including me in what you're doing and letting me watch you two collaborate together.
Teresa, it's a pleasure having this conversation, and we wanted to have this, that for a while, because we knew that something special that we wanted to share, not just to Dylan and to many other people that listen to this podcast. So I think we've done that, and it's again, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very, very busy person. Yeah, so take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And on that note, we'll wrap up there. If you've enjoyed this conversation, it would be fantastic if you could subscribe or follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this on. And if you want to see more inspiring conversations, head over to our website, thequestforsuccesspodcast.com, and you can see all our episodes over there. And with that, we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening.